The Last of Us was a wildly popular video game, but when it came time for a sequel, a very ballsy creative choice was made. This, of course, being the decision to kill off the first game's main character, Joel Miller. And naturally, Joel's death early into the second game was extremely divisive. Some people hated it and still to this day shit on the second game and second season of the show, and others thought it was a really brutal, sad, and powerful moment that started a really dark and great character arc for Ellie. Now, rather than discussing which side of the fence I ultimately fall on, because honestly I see the merit of both lines of thought, I think it'd be far more interesting to discuss the morality of Joel Miller, because in my eyes, he's truly an anti-hero. He sort of operates in a gray area between right and wrong, and whether you think he's a quote-unquote good person primarily comes down to one simple question: was saving Ellie the morally correct decision to make? Now, just as a disclaimer, I'm going to be analyzing this question through the lens of the television series primarily, A, because this is a channel where I break down film and television, and B, because I'm not really a massive gamer. I have watched the entire gameplay for the first and second game in preparation for this video, so I'm well aware of the story in each and the differences between the show and the game. But I also think the overarching story is similar enough to where the ultimate answer of whether or not Joel's choice to save Ellie was indeed morally correct will be the same in both mediums. Right off the bat, I think we can all agree that Joel's motivations for saving Ellie were extremely understandable. Ever since his daughter died and he was unable to protect her, it was as if he lost a key part of himself and he just was never the same. And Ellie in many ways essentially molded Joel back together. Caring for her and looking after her gave Joel back a piece of himself that he thought he had lost forever. So when he was told that Ellie was going to have to die in order for the fireflies to try to make a cure for becoming an infected, Joel simply felt like he couldn't let it happen. Not again. He emotionally needed to save her in a way that he failed to do for his biological daughter. But I also think we can all agree that something being emotionally understandable doesn't automatically make that morally correct. And the two main things I want to discuss are what a cure would actually mean for the world of The Last of Us, and what Ellie would have wanted to do if given the choice. Now, ultimately, I don't think finding a cure would mean much to the world that The Last of Us takes place in, because I believe its society is too fractured to be put back together in the way in which the world used to run. While yes, the fungus that controls the infected is what caused structured society to fall in the first place, I'd argue that the infected no longer serve as the biggest threat to a civilized world. While of course being immune to them would aid in human efforts to fight off herds of infected, the factions that have formed, such as the fireflies, the wolves, seraphites, the rattlers, etc., are the real reason that a cure would mean next to nothing. These groups are simply fighting for control, power, and revenge. So a cure likely would have just become a tool that the fireflies could have used to gain dominance over the other factions of The Last of Us. Take the wolves and the seraphites for example. These factions are in an extremely volatile blood feud, so why would a cure impact their feelings towards one another in any way, shape, or form? At the end of the day, this idea of Joel snuffing out society's last chance for peace and to make a comeback is something that I don't believe is true whatsoever. Also, since the cure would only work on people who aren't infected yet, it's not like you're just magically healing infected people and returning them to being human. And it'd still be possible for the infected to kill uninfected people, you just wouldn't have to worry about becoming one of them. However, just because a cure wouldn't have fixed their world, doesn't mean that killing 18 people to save one is justified. And this is where I feel like both Joel and the Fireflies are in the wrong. Ellie deserved to have a say in what happened with her own life. Killing her without giving her a choice, and saving her without giving her a choice are both unfair to Ellie. It is my personal belief that all human life is sacred, and taking it is just about the most heinous act that can be committed without proper reason. So off rip, the Fireflies are morally in the wrong, because they didn't give Ellie any autonomy over her own life. they were going to kill her on a slight chance of being able to find a cure. And even if they were successful, the impact of said cure probably wouldn't even have been that great. In a perfect world, Ellie should have been sat down, had everything explained to her, and then been allowed to make a choice. But y'all clicked on this video to hear my opinion on Joel's morality, not that of the Fireflies. So let me finally directly answer the question. No, Joel Miller is not a quote-unquote good person, and killing the Fireflies was not morally correct. And this comes down to the fact that Ellie would have wanted to give her life. For even a small chance at finding a cure, it would have given her a purpose. So Joel too is taking Ellie's own autonomy for selfish reasons. He did all of this because he loved her and couldn't imagine his life without her in it anymore. So yes, in this case, loving Ellie and protecting her at all costs is morally bad. Joel killed so many people just to save one person who didn't want to be saved. Again, it is highly understandable, and I'm sure any parent would make the same exact choice that Joel did. It's very natural for a parent to be willing to sacrifice anything for their child, even their own morality. So funny enough, I'd say that Joel Miller is in a weird way a really good father, yet a morally poor person. And to be honest, I think even he would admit that he's probably not that great of a person. But as a father figure / protector, well, he was willing to do anything in his power to keep his daughter alive. So in conclusion, I, Screen Stories, think Joel Miller is a great father, but a morally poor person. Well, if you made it this far, I'd love to hear your take on all of this. Do you think Joel made the morally right decision in saving Ellie from the Fireflies? And do you think he's a good person? I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please feel free to drop a like and subscribe for more Screen Stories content. Thank you for watching, and until next time, peace.